Hey, yo, what's up, everybody? It's me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and welcome to Fantasy Pros, the home of fantasy sports. It is me, it is Dan Harris, and it's you, and it's the definitive mock draft. This is it. This is what we've been training for our entire lives. We've done the Rocky montage from Rocky 4 all the way up to this. I've been out there in the snow with big logs on my back trying to train. Dan Harris is doing one-arm push-ups by the fire. We are ready for this. This is it. We are in peak draft season, and we got a great guest for you today. We've got Alex Fast from Pitcher List, and I'm super excited to have him here on the show. And Dan, I know before we even introduce Alex here to the audience, they already know him from the live stream last week, but Dan, this is it. I feel like we have been training for this. All of the drafts pretty much are going to happen either this weekend or next week. So this is our last opportunity to help everybody, all of our listeners, get ready for the latest trends and what's going on, because we do have a lot of things that are different from last week because we've had some injuries, especially to the bullpen.
Yeah, I am ready. Absolutely ready. I have not been doing one-arm push-ups by the fire. I've been doing two-arm push-ups on my knees. That's how Dan Harris trains, just to be clear. Yes, I am disappointed, actually, that this is our last mock draft because I love drafting. I draft all day. I would just do it all day long. I'm excited for the season to get started. But yeah, things are different. I've done a lot of drafts, a lot of salary cap drafts, and the Yates injury, Springer's got the oblique. There's just too many. Tatis maybe has a shoulder. No more injuries. Let's get it started. I'm ready.
The oblique is always the worst one. As soon as I hear the oblique in spring training, I just throw my hands up and I just want to throw my computer across the room. I hate it. I hate it so much, but luckily, we've got a fun guest, and I'm really excited to have this guest because, you know, whenever you have the quote-unquote pitching guru guys, everybody always has them on a show to talk about pitching. Well, I want to draft with one of those pitching guru guys, and there's nobody better here, and don't tell Nick Pollock, but I'll even say it out loud. There's nobody better than our good friend Alex Fast. You can follow him on Twitter at AlexFast8. He is fast, he is furious, he is ready for this mock draft. Alex, welcome to the show, my friend, and thanks for joining us again. Just 2 weeks ago, it seems like just yesterday, we were all together, and we're back again, and I'm excited to have you. Are you ready for some mocking?
Oh, yeah, I'm totally ready. I mean, Joe, I don't know about this, but when we're done, I'm going to see if I can pay you to record my alarm message. I just want this, profanity-laden alarm message from you, because you get me so amped up in the morning. You know, I'm ready to go. And you guys are doing actual physical weights when you're training. The way I train is just by eating everything around me. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, that's my go-to. But, Alex, I'm ready.
Just to give you a heads up, by the way, just so you know, it is, I promise you, the real exciting thing that Joe does where gets you really pumped. You're like, man, I could wake up. It wears off in 3 days. So don't get him doing your alarm clock. I promise. It was really cool for me too. Now every time I hear him, just
so now enough. It's old hat already. So already the bloom is off the rose in this relationship. Right. We haven't even started the daily show together. Already Dan Harris is over it. He's like, why did I do this?
It's true.
Why am I subjecting myself to this? Now look, you're saying it wears off, but if Alex makes it his alarm, then he gets reset every day.
Good call.
And there's nobody better for, as Alex said, the profanity-laden rant than an Italian from Brooklyn. I can give that to you. In fact, last week in our Tout Wars draft, Bogman told me I said the most Italian thing he's ever heard anybody say. I had him a comment about something, which is, that's what I said when I said it. And he said, that is the funniest thing I've ever heard. And he said, I've never heard you more Italian in that very moment that you just made. That's why I said what I said when I said it, and boom, there you go. That's all you need.
It's funny that you say that because my wife is also Italian, and I'm down with her family, and they're Italian as well. We were having a nice Italian meal last week, and I made a joke about something, and she said, that's my husband. He'll shake your hand with his right hand, and with his left hand, he'll steal the calamari. And I was like, that's the most Italian thing
Wow. Wow, that's pretty good. You know, I remember once I had a girlfriend who was from West Virginia area, and she was lovely Southern belle kind of a gal, and I brought her home once to meet the folks, and she said, why is everybody yelling? I said, what are you talking about? She said, why is everyone yelling all the time? I said, no one's yelling at all. Like, this is just everyone talking to each other. And she could not believe just the general volume of the Pisapia household. And, you know, it's the rest is history there.
Yeah,
so,
I love it.
So now that, before we jump in here to today's mock draft episode, again, this will be a 5x5 roto. We're going back old school. We did OBP last week. If you missed that, you can go back and listen or watch on demand on our YouTube channel, which is Fantasy Pros MLB. Dan Strafford was there for the OBP. So we're back to batting average today. We're doing the corners. We're doing the 5 outfielders. We're going to have the 9 open pitcher spots and 1 catcher because 1 is enough. Please stop making me draft 2 catchers. I beg all of you. And before we actually move on I want to let everybody know that RT Sports is a sponsor of today's show, and Fantasy Baseball's best ball leagues are drafting right now. So if you go to rtsports.com/fantasypros, look, the best ball leagues are fun. It's fantasy baseball drafting without all the grind of the season-long management, which can really take its toll on you. Look at this hair. I have none left. That's what happened. It's all the season-long baseball. The best ball is like Rogaine. It just grows it all back. Draft your team. Get your best possible score each and every week for the season. And RT Sports features best ball leagues from all different price points, anywhere from just $10 all the way to $500 if you're a big-time guy like Alex Fast just throwing money around. Plus, rtsports.com has the Best Ball Championship featuring a $20 entry and a $10,000 grand prize. The Best Ball Championship is drafting now, but leagues are filling fast, so join now for a chance to win 10 grand. rtsports.com has live drafts every day, every night until the season starts, and that's just a few days away. So draft your team today. Go to rtsports.com/fantasypros. Again, that's rtsports.com/fantasypros. Real-time fantasy sports, the most trusted site in fantasy since 1995. A simpler time when Joey P, I think, was just a boy and a junior in high school with his whole life ahead of him and a lot more hair. But I also want to mention tomorrow on Thursday, or depending on when you're listening to this, Thursday, the 25th of March, we're having a live chat marathon starting at noon with Dan Harris. I'll be on there at 1. It's going all the way till 8 p.m. Eastern. If you've got fantasy questions, we've got fantasy answers. Go to www.fantasypros.com/marathon. Again, that's fantasypros.com/marathon. And get in there. Ask the questions. You got a draft coming up? Get some advice. Weigh that advice with what your plans are. We can help you out. And another thing, we got all kinds of stuff going on because we got that Juan Soto jersey that's just waiting to be given away thanks to our friends at pristineauction.com. FantasyPros.com/MLB contest is how you sign up to get involved. You go to Apple Podcasts or CastBox. You write a review of the show, you take a screenshot, then you drop it over there into FantasyPros.com/MLB contest. It's a little form to fill out. You drop the screenshot, and boom, just like that, you are entered to win a free autographed Juan Soto jersey. I'm president of the fan club. I'm jealous of whoever gets to win this. There's only a few days left for that as well, thanks to our friends at PristineAuction.com. I think that's it. I think we're ready to mock. And of course, we're using our multi-user draft software where you can mock with your friends. You send out a link. You can all get in there. You choose your draft spot. You choose at random, whatever you want to do when you get prepped for your draft. So, Dan Harris, is our multi-user draft set?
Oh, it is. I'm starting it right now. It's going to randomize our draft order. I can't wait. If you're watching, again, youtube.com/FantasyProsMLB, you can see the actual draft board. I am controlling it.
Okay, so let's start things off on the mock end. It looks like number 1 is our guest, Alex Fast, is on the 1 spot. I am 5, and of course, Dan Harris always right behind me at 6. You're so supportive, always behind me every time. Sure. Alex Fast, you are on the board. The entire board is yours. Where do you go?
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take Ronald Acuna Jr. I think he is going to be the guy for me. Let me go ahead and put him in there. Draft. Yeah, listen, you're getting everything that you could want, right? You're getting the average, you're getting the stolen bases, you're getting a floor all across the board. So I'm going to go ahead and click draft on him, and that should take care of my pick. Where are you guys picking out of?
Oh, I am at 5. Dan Harris is at 6. So That is nice that we are back-to-back, and that's always good, right, Dan? I mean, I always feel like, you know, you and I are together. We're inseparable, holding hands. You're so negative. I don't know what's going on.
I know you're going to take the guys because we like pretty much the same people. So, well, I mean, I know who you're taking here anyway, so this is not.
Well, look, you know, if my boy Juan Soto's there, then I'm going to draft him. And he is there. Therefore, he's on my team, and I'm very happy. Trout went right before. Tatis went 3. Betts went 2. That means everything left is for you, Dan Harris.
Well, that's fantastic. As you can see, if you're watching on youtube.com/FantasyPros MLB, you can see my cheat sheet over here up the top left. I'm bringing my own rankings. It is called CSW Percentage for Life because congratulations to Alex and Nick, even though the draft is down with Nick Bollock, for having their incredible metric, which is incredibly useful now being put on Fangraphs. Anyway, I have the top 5 offensive players before I go to my first pitcher. They're all gone. I'm going to my first pitcher. My first pitcher is Jacob deGrom. I have no problems with the fact that because I'm a Mets fan, I'm sure that he will have an unfortunate injury or something like that. I'm good to go with him. He's my number one pitcher. It comes back to me. You know I like to get a pitcher on my top, one of my first 2 picks. And for me, look, there was a pretty big pitcher run. All the normal players are gone at this point. That leaves me for a guy who I am just getting everywhere I can this year. And, you know, he's so stable. It's Bryce Harper. Up here, my first outfielder, you know, especially in an OBP league, this is average, but still, I mean, what do you want? 265, 35, 15, pretty much locked in there. So he's my pick, Joe.
Well, I keep saying, you know, if you don't take a pitcher early, you're not happy with your pitching staff. And I got to tell you, like, I feel like this is just the right thing to do, the value that's on the board. So I'm going to take my guy, Lucas Giolito, big fan, love the strikeouts. I'm a sucker for the big Ks. And I think that that offense behind him and the defense behind him is a good opportunity. And now that they got Hendricks in there too, a little lockdown closer action for you, I'm very happy with him as my ace, which goes all the way after Xander Bogaerts, Walker Buehler, Jose Abreu, and now Alex Fast on the clock for 2 picks.
Oh, Lordy, how are you going to let me get Max Scherzer at the back end of the second round? I am absolutely obsessed with where Max Scherzer is falling right now. Listen, I understand that there are some injury concerns with him, but the fact that this season's going to be truncated innings-wise for virtually everyone this year makes me a little bit higher on guys who sometimes have injury issues. You know what I mean by that? Guys aren't going to have more than 180 innings, so if Max Scherzer is theoretically going to have 150 or 160, I still think he's going to exceed that. That's going to close that gap. I still think he's there. The biggest problem with him last year was that he had the
Make
highest...
sure you click draft.
I did, yeah.
Take him. Okay,
there you go.
You're talking so much.
I know. I got so excited. I couldn't believe that he'd fallen that far to me. He had the worst OB. I think it was actually WOBA when he was behind in the count. He's going to be able to correct that this year. So for me, I'm all about having that start with Scherzer and Acuna. So now what am I going to do here? I've got a nice floor overall, right? I've got pretty much all of my categories covered aside from my stolen bases. I think I'm going to go ahead then, and I am going to continue to build that floor by taking Bo Bichette. Once again, another 5-tool guy that I'm going to be able to get in the 3rd round right now. It's just going to raise that floor for me in all 5 hitting categories, allow me to take some risks later on in the draft.
Very nice. I just got sniped by Team 4, who I already hate. Whoever Team 4 is. I really wanted DJ LeMahieu there. Second base is dreadful. And I actually have some follow-up questions on Max Scherzer, if I may, in a second. But I'm going to try to figure out my pick here because I was all set. I thought it was going to be a lock, and guess what? It wasn't. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something a little different. I'm gonna go with Whit Merrifield here, who I absolutely love. A big fan of the Whit Merrifield. Think he's vastly underrated. Also, I like the fact that you can move him around. So I'm gonna see where the draft goes. Let the draft come to me a little bit. Go a little Whit Merrifield. Lock up some extra stats there. Dan Harris, you are now on the clock, my friend.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Ozzie Albies here. And, you know, I like, you know, it to the extent there is a quote-unquote thin position, it is second base other than catcher. And, again, LeMahieu, Merrifield right before me. I love Albies, high floor. Again, another guy who's probably a 20, 25, maybe 15 guy. So I'm going to go ahead and grab Albies here. I do technically have Mondesi higher on my board still, but I feel like I've probably got to change that because every time I'm faced with this sort of exact choice, I wind up doing something else. So that's where I'm going. It is back to me. And I think I'm just going to keep building this power speed combo. Obviously, I have DeGrom, so there's no need for me to feel like I need to go with a pitcher here in the 4th. And so I've got Harper. He's going to chip in 15. I've got Albies. He's probably going to chip in 10 to 15. And now I'm going Luis Robert at for my second outfielder. Again, Joe, we talk about it. You can wait on outfield, but it gets thin kind of quick. Does. So I've got 3 guys who should provide a nice mix of power and speed.
I want to ask you a question, Alex. You made a great point about, you know, the season limits overall for innings for certain pitchers, and I'm on the clock. I'll make my pick in a second. But are you concerned at all with Max Scherzer in head-to-head formats? Because that is something where, you know, I actually have him as a keeper in my head-to-head home league in points, and I'm keeping him this year. It's at a high salary, but I'm a little concerned. How concerned are you with Max Scherzer in head-to-head versus 5x5 season-long roto?
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, in head-to-head, I think I would try... Actually, you know what? I think overall I'm not too concerned because theoretically when it comes to head-to-head, anything can go in that certain week, right? Even though Max Scherzer might get injured in one week, you can still have great starts from the other guys. I think depending on who you pick here, my next pick is going to be who I would like to pair Max Scherzer with in that kind of head-to-head format to try and take care of any innings pitched concerns. Did you pick? Because it didn't show up for me quite yet. I think it might be loading.
I did.
Okay,
just
great.
took Aaron Judge.
So once again, the software is letting this guy fall to me, and any concerns that I would have about innings pitched are now gone with Lance Lynn, right? I just drafted him. He's a workhorse. So I think pairing him with another workhorse guy, if you can do that pairing, I think is really, really good. I still think, though, I mean, like, I hope people still believe what you believe about this Max Scherzer thing. And I'm not saying that, you're perpetuating that, because I'm just not as concerned. It's also a contract year for him. And he literally said, like, oh, I was paid to pitch 7 years. I'm pitching 7 years. Like, I'm just all about that for him. All right, so we've already established that I've been pretty excited about the floor that I've taken across the board. So I'm going to go ahead and take a guy who's going to get me a lot of every category but average and stolen bases, and take Pete Alonso here. Just give me as many home runs as possible. And then later on, I can focus on taking care of that average. I should be set with stolen bases now between Bichette and Acuna. I don't think you really need more than like 100 out of your draft. You know what I mean? I think if you walk away with like 70 stolen bases, you're probably going to be in a competitive place.
I actually want to follow up on that for a second if I can, Joe, because what I always do is I take historical standings in my leagues, right? And I set targets when I'm in sort of my salary cap drafts. And I had something where I was fighting so hard for stolen bases to try to reach it in the draft. And then when I ran the numbers at the end of the thing, even though I fell way below my target and way below what I think we usually get, I was still projected to finish 4th in steals. And it's just because there just ain't steals anymore out there. So the number I think that you're shooting for in your drafts is lower than I feel like what they've been going down every year for like 6 or 7 years. It's lower, I think, than what we've been thinking about in previous years. So I'm really glad you made that point, because you're right. It's not something that people need to focus on quite as hard as they might have otherwise. All right, Joe, you made your pick here.
I did make my pick, and it's Strasburg. Normally I would take Lance Lynn instead of Aaron Judge where I was, but I wanted to play around and see something different there and see if I could wait and see maybe I can get a Strasburg there on the way back. And normally I would go with Lance Lynn, but I wanted to change things up a little bit, and everything Alex said about Lance Lynn is correct. He's grossly underappreciated, grossly undervalued. The strikeout rate's good. Now he's got better defense, better situation there, obviously, in terms of run support, no doubt about that. So this is a great situation for Lance Lynn. He's been low-key one of the better starters in Major League Baseball. And on top of which, just because he doesn't look the mold of like the tall, handsome starting pitcher with the flowing hair, you know what? Some guys just look like the dude at Home Depot in the paint aisle, but guess what? He's going to give you every single sample that you need to take home to your rotation. So I love me some Lance Lynn. He's one of my favorites. I got him all the time, just not today. That means you were on the board and you made your pick. So Dan Harris, who did you pick before we go for your second one in a row?
I actually really struggled with this pick. Starling Marte was tops on my board, but we just talked about it. And I'm with Robert and Albies and Harper. And I don't know if I really needed that giant speed guy necessarily. So I wound up going with Luke Voit, who I think is pretty undervalued this year. I mean, whenever he's healthy, he's basically a 40 homer pace to the extent he can stay healthy, and he won't hurt you in batting average. So now I'm here. I'm with, some of my favorites, guys like Nick Castellanos, who I love. Again, I might see what this looks like if I go with DeGrom and then I wait on pitching, because again, it's Fried, it's Hyunjin Ryu. I think I'm going to wait it out a little bit, and I think I'm just going to add another solid offensive piece. And I think I'm going to go with Eugenio Suarez.
Oh, sniped again.
Might have a little shortstop eligibility coming up if all the rumors are true, but regardless, he's just a power bat. I'm adding 2 power bats here after going with power speed combos. I'm going to have to focus on pitching. It's already making me upset, but it'll be fine. Back to you, Joey.
I'm mad because that's who I had lined up, and not because he might play shortstop, because I wanted to play third base.
Yeah,
because
sure.
Third base is rough. I'm not a big fan of the third base situation. So now you're forcing my hand to go back to Joey P. Brand for some more power. And you know what? I'm going to do with my boy Nelson Cruz. I don't care how old I get. I'm always going to be younger than Nelson Cruz, and that makes me happy. So Nelson Cruz right there is my DH, and I'll lock that in. I'm happy with it.
I know, Alex, you got to make your pick, so go ahead. But I do want to get Alex's, because we haven't been able to talk about this yet. When you're in a draft, do you have any concerns about filling up your utility spot early in the draft? Because Joe and I have been taking Cruz in the 5th, 6th round, not really worrying about it. But I know some people are like, I don't want to clog up my utility this early in the draft.
I'm fortunate enough to be in a good amount of 2 util leagues, which is great. If I'm in a 1 util league, I am a little bit reticent about taking Cruz and Stanton. It's not the end of the day, because I also like to get guys who have high, like a bunch of positional eligibility, as is evident by the guy that I am just about to take in Ketel Marte. Are you telling me this is a dude that I could play at second base and then plug into my outfield if I want to get another second baseman later, or vice versa, and then maybe even it looks like shortstop eligibility right now in this format. He has been tearing the cover off the ball in spring, which only confirms what I thought at the end of last season, that power that he has can actually be real. I'm going to also mix it up a little bit right now, too, and do something that I usually wouldn't do. And that is take a closer. I'm gonna.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Edwin Diaz. Now, I was really, really upset to see Josh Hader go. He's working with a new changeup that Pitching Ninja tweeted yesterday, and oh lordy, is that thing nasty! And also, we heard some great news yesterday from Craig Counsell where he's not going to be utilized in the 6th, 7th, 8th role. He's just going to be utilized as the closer. So, man, that to me jumps Josh Hader above Liam Hendricks in my rankings. I like what I've seen from Edwin Diaz's fastball in spring training. So, yes, I'm going to be stressed. I might be looking like Joe at the end of this year, but I went with Edwin Diaz there.
All right, let's move on here. I'm gonna try to take Paul Goldschmidt here at first base. Big fan of the Goldschmidt. First base also not what she used to be, and I actually was thinking about taking Diaz or a closer myself there, but I just can't do it. I can't bring myself to do it. And then when you had the injury there, nonetheless, to more closers like Kirby Yates, and you're starting to lose guys, it starts to get thinner and thinner, and I think that's a reason to really be concerned with that whole position as a whole, because it opens up two ways. You can either think, oh my goodness, maybe there's a premium on those premium guys that I do want to pay for, or you're just going to continue to slum because already new, cheaper guys are coming aboard. Dan Harris, you are on the clock, my friend.
Yeah, I think it's time to look for some pitching. I mean, I do love Nick Castellanos, so I thought about him there. Had I not filled second base, Keston Hiura was a guy who I definitely would have gone for here, who I like for the bounce back. But I wound up going with Max Fried, who I don't love, but is in kind of this giant conglomerate of pitchers right here, where I'm like, oh, I guess I'll take you, even though I don't absolutely love you. There are a couple of more guys here, but there's also another guy who I've kind of become enamored with. He will throw in some speed, so he fits my mojo right now a little bit, and I'm just going to go with him. It's the bounce back that I am expecting from Austin Meadows, who I have kind of come on board with lately. I was a little concerned that maybe because he had the one great year, and even though last year was COVID, that maybe they would decide, you know what, it's the Rays, we're just going to platoon you, and we're not going to play you, we're going to, but I think they know what they have. He's had a pretty decent spring, so I'm going to go with Meadows here, who I don't have too many shares of, so even though this is a fake league, I finally have like a decent share of Meadows, so he's my 8th round pick.
That's ironically how exactly the front office speaks about that's how they talk. It's like, hey, it's the Rays. We want to sign you to a long-term deal, buy out your arbitration.
Right. Weird. Very weird.
Very excited to have you as part of the club. Speaking of the Rays, they said, Charlie Morton, you were really good. Yeah. But you know what? We're just going to move on and let you kind of go and go wherever you want. And he's going to go to my team. That's where he's going to go as my third starter. The miles per hour back up velocity-wise to about 93, 94 already this spring. He was great in the postseason. I'm not worried. The stop and start was the only worry with Charlie Morton. Other than that, I'm good. I'm ready to go. Let's lock it in. Ace of the Braves. That's right, I said it. Ace of the Braves, which puts Alex Fast now on the clock back at the 1 spot on the turn for 2 picks. He's already taken Lourdes Gurriel. So where are you going next?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I'm taking a quick look at my team and seeing what I need here. I got to see what's available off the board. I mean, before we even move further to that, love the point that you made about Charlie Morton. I'm not really concerned about the velocity that he displayed last year. I think he's going to be completely fine. Also love that Austin Meadows pick. I think he is definitely prime for a bounce back here. I'm probably going to see if I can fill my third base spot. I already said I'm a sucker for multi-position eligibility, but it is an average league, which takes Max Muncy pretty much off the board for me. I'm going to go ahead, and this might be a little bit of a reach, but I'm going to do it just to fill the position and take Matt Chapman. Listen, I think he's a guy. I have the average built in where it's not going to absolutely crush me because he's probably going to be a 240, 250 average guy, but he's also going to probably hit anywhere from 30 to 35 home runs, so I'm a fan of that.
Very nice there. Very nice. Ian Anderson just went before me, another one of Dan Harris and my favorite pitchers, but we were able to get him in our Tout Wars.
Would you have taken him there, Jeff?
I would have been very tempted. Very tempted.
Yeah.
See,
he was my pick. He was my pick. I'm letting you know that. So.
I'm all about building roster strength. I think the biggest mistake people make in drafts is trying to fill all the spots instead of trying to be great somewhere. Be great somewhere. Have a roster strength, especially in season long, because you can always make changes. You could always, add or remove guys. I am actually really toying with the idea of going with a closer here. That is look, Raisel Iglesias has been very steady for a very long time. And I think I'm just going to take the steady staves because I think he's the last, quote, steady guy on the board. But I can't emphasize this enough to everybody out there listening and watching us on the YouTube channel that, find your roster strength, build that, take the best players on the board. There'll be plenty of time to make up deficits later. And you can always be two things in every draft and come away successful. That is prepared and flexible. If you're prepared, then you can be flexible when the board starts to zig and zag, and it is. It's zigging and zagging right now, and Dan Harris is in the middle between the zig and the zag, so what are you going to do?
So the consensus pick for the experts is Giancarlo Stanton, and he has outfield eligibility in this because, again, he once played there, and Yahoo will grant it to him, so that's what we have. But I am going to grab another pitcher, and actually, Alex, I'd love for you to give me your thoughts on this guy I'm going to take, and it's Zach Wheeler. And I'd like to know why he didn't strike anybody out last year at all, and if we can expect these strikeouts to come back this year.
Yeah, that's such a fantastic question, although this is the second time you've taken the guy that I've been interested in, so why I'm deciding to give you an answer here, I don't know. But I think, last year when we were coming into the season, everyone said, elevate your four-seamer, Zach, elevate your four-seamer, because that's what the league is doing. The peripherals on his four-seamer don't necessarily lead to a pitch that would have success when elevated. I think he sort of got that memo, started throwing lower in the zone and having more success inducing weak contact. While I think these strikeouts are going to tick up a little bit more than what we saw last year, it really wouldn't surprise me if, and Nick has also said this, and I think it's very apt, if Zach Wheeler turns into Kyle Hendricks in a way, right? Where he's getting a bit more Ks, but his ratios are also going to be maintained. So taking him there, I think, is absolutely fantastic. This is a guy who could definitely be a top 20 pitcher. That's his his ceiling over the course of the season. So while the Ks might not return in full, he's going to get you all the categories.
Love it.
All right, me on the board next. Ryan Presley just went to Dan Harris. Dan, you want to talk about that pick real quick?
Yeah, real quick. None of us probably comes in here being like, let's draft a closer early. Like, I'm fine to wait, but I do feel, especially now with the Yates injury, taking another quote-unquote reliable guy off the board, that having the one guy at least in your lineup that you're like, okay, you're my closer. I feel fine about you, and then I'll figure it out later, is kind of desirable. There aren't that many of those guys left, so I'm just going to take Presley here in the 10th round.
All right, I'm just going to take Mike Moustakas and be boring here. Just put the Moose over there at third base and stick him there, take the 30 bombs and move on. Yeah, I'll probably hit 250. That's not the greatest thing in the world, but I will live. Once again, the corners this year is just not what they used to be.
Yeah.
There are some guys later, the Cabrian Hayeses of the world, who actually I was looking at pretty hard right there as well, but there's definitely some guys you can make up ground later, but there's a definitive floor with Mike Moustakas that I think I'm just going to take the floor of that player. And Alex Fast just took Lance McCullers, who is a fascinating piece to take because there's upside there. The home road splits were drastic, and I'm being kind there using the word drastic. But what are your thoughts on McCullers going into this season?
Oh, man, I am all aboard the Lance McCullers train. I cannot.
You got two Lances. I just want to point that out.
Oh, my God. Great.
You've gone double Lance in this draft.
I think that's also an interesting pairing because Lance McCullers theoretically could be a guy who, he might not get the most innings because he's obviously been dealing with injuries for a large part of his career. But
second pick here, just to make it clear.
Yeah, I got it. I just picked it.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
I was trying to multitask and think about what to say.
Fine. I get it.
Who I wanted to pick. So Lance McCullers also added a new slider and a new cutter. He focused on the new cutter last year, which was really exciting because he's a guy who sits low, right? Sits low with the changeup, sits low with the sinker, sits low with the curveball. Now he has a cutter that he's elevating. He also introduced a new slider in his most recent game. That is absolutely bananas. This is a contract year for him. The Astros are going to take the gloves off. He's 2 years away from his Tommy John surgery. I think we can get 150 innings out of him, and that's what owners need to decide when you're drafting Lance McCullers. Is he going to be a 130 innings pitch guy or a 150 innings pitch guy? I think he's the latter, and I think the sky is the limit for him, so I'm getting him wherever I can.
I think the great part about it, by the way, is that you pair him with two guys who are going to have the innings, right? I mean, that's the thing with Lynn and Scherzer. That's the perfect spot to take McCullers, in my opinion. Sorry, Joe, go ahead. You're up.
No, it's all right. You know what? I'm going to try to get some speed here and take a little Tommy Pham and hope for the best. Hopefully he's over the injury issues. once again, it's just a value here. I'm going with a very floor team right now. And it said value pick. I got a thumbs up from the Wizard. Nobody beats the Wiz.
I never get the thumbs up from the
Got
Wizard.
a thumbs up. Well, look, normally I've gotten some more negative emojis, but this one was the thumbs up here. I'm going to take that for now. I'm sure at some point it's going to yell at me because I did something that it didn't want me to do, but that's okay. Yeah. Dan Harris, you are on the clock next. What are your needs, Dan? Talk to us about your needs.
I have so many needs. I'm looking at the categories tab, and it tells me I'm looking pretty good in most categories, actually. Thank you for that. It's suggesting Dylan Bundy, but it's a very close call. For me, Patrick Corbin right now is one spot ahead of Dylan Bundy, but I'm actually going to take somebody else, which, by the way, this is a great process for me to redo my rankings a little bit in that I'm taking Joe Musgrove over both those guys. Now, I like Bundy, and Corbin has me a little worried with the velocity in the spring. I know I had a big fight with Nick, when he came on and he loved him. I'm a little worried about it. And now I've got another pick. Let's see what I've got. I've got to check my roster.
Oh, no. Your boy Trevor Rosenthal went. And I almost took him. I was actually seriously considering. And I said, you know what? Saves are saves. Let's not go crazy. I know Rosenthal was great last year, but now you got to pay for him. It's funny because our first mock together, what happened? He lasted to the 18th round or something. And we were like, everybody wants to fight over him now. Now it's like a 12th, 11th round pick. A little bit different scenario.
Yeah. So now
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I'm choosing between two guys here. One is, well, I'm not going to mention him because he may last, okay? I'll probably go with the other guy. And again, what have we said already a couple of times? This guy actually might make it back to me, and Pick Predictor thinks it was possible, but I'm a little higher. The 4-position eligibility is Tommy Edman at second, third, short, and outfield. Slight reach. I get it. 83% chance he would have made it back to me. That's okay, Wizard. But again, when you have the position flexibility, and Alex, your team is just like vomiting position flexibility at this point. You can move people wherever you want. It's great at this point because you can see wherever people go. So for me, I'm going to take him. Just get, he'll lead off. He'll get a little speed, a little power. So that's where I'm going with that.
This will be the first draft in quite some time that I don't have Victor Robles because he also went in this round. So I'm a little thrown off. I'm a little upset right now. I'm trying to deal with that because I thought for sure, looking at the Wizard, it gave me a little bit of security that he would be back and make it around to me. I thought it was going to yell at me for the reach factor, and guess what? It didn't. It did not. There's a lot of pitchers on the board here. I'm going to go ahead and take my boy Frankie Montas, and I know it's a risk. I got the 3 Marlins guys out there too, and it's very difficult. I can't decide on any of them. It says that I got a slight reach. It gave me this face. So we'll see how that goes. Alex Fast, what do you think about Montas before we talk about your picks? Because you're up. I want to get your brain about the Montas.
Yeah, Montas, I think the sky's the limit for him. And I think the splitter is returning, and I think a lot of people are a little bit out because of what he showcased last year, and I'm frankly not as concerned with what he showcased last year. Your
lack of concern makes me less concerned, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think people forget that they're like, listen, even you talk about, the name of the draft. Well, now we changed it to, I think so. No, yeah, Down with Nick Pollock. But
Down with Nick Pollock.
CSW was brought up earlier, right? And this was a CS guy who finished in the top 10 of CSW even with that terrible year. What that says to me is a guy who can still command his pitches, and if he gets that splitter back, then he's going to be totally fine. There's one point that I keep dying to make that I keep completely forgetting to make, which is there are probably 10. Oh, good. There's my guy. Because I was having a little technical difficulties, I'm enjoying this nice challenge of only drafting players who appear on the board and not searching for anyone. But I'm actually really glad that this guy appeared, and that's Anthony Santander. Listen, I understand he's a Baltimore Oriole. Are the Orioles ever going to be really good? But it doesn't matter because they play in one of the best offensive parks ever. This is a guy who is not going to kill you in average. He can be a 260, 270 average guy. He's even better in OBP leagues, and home runs anywhere from 25 to 30 in Camden Yards. The last point I wanted to make about those closers, there's probably 10 guys who have roles right now. With Kirby Yates gone, right? Trevor Rosenthal was the last guy on the board who probably has a clear role. There maybe is one more, but even if you look up top, Nick Anderson does not have a clear role. Even James Karinchak, they said yesterday Nick Whitgren is probably going to get a majority of those saves at the beginning of the year. So it's a terrifying landscape, but that is enough for me. I've just spieled for the past 10 minutes.
No.
I love a good terrifying landscape. It's Actually, that was when in my summer job when I was in high school, I worked for that company. Yeah, we used to do people's lawns and stuff. It was great. It was, a little side cash when I was 17 years old. I'm going to go with Didi Gregorius, another safe floor pick. I want to see what happens with this team. This is the responsible Joe Pisapia team, a little irresponsible some other times where I like to reach for my guys, but I'm going I'm going to go a little bit calmer here. Maybe in old age I'm settling in a little bit. But Didi is another player I think has a very good floor. Everyday at-bats. I need a shortstop. And once again, I think the value on the board equates to my needs on my roster. And that's when you want to start filling those holes. And right after, Dan Harris has already made his pick. And now he's ready for pick number 2. So take me through your first one here in round 13 that you made.
Well, this was one where I was in harmony with all of our experts. The top pick suggested was Rhys Hoskins. I love Rhys Hoskins. I think he's just, as long as he's healthy, he should be a super cheap source of homers and runs and everything like that. My team, I like where I am right now. The suggested pick is Ian Happ. I don't hate that necessarily. I do like Ian Happ. I do have somebody on my mind, but I'm going to try to wait that out. Pick Predictor says there is not a huge chance that he will be selected before my next pick.
Yeah, that's what they told me about Victor Robles. And that didn't go well.
I'm willing to take the chance. It's fine. You know what? I'm going to go with Ian Happ. I don't have any Ian Happ shares so far this year, but it's a guy who, again, once he cut down on the strikeout rate a little bit, he can get by now with what he's got. He'll probably lead off for the Cubs, so I'm willing to roll with them. So back-to-back offensive picks with Hoskins and Happ for me.
Well, if you didn't take him, I was going to. And you still don't have any shares because this is just a mock.
No, this is a share. I count this in my
Oh,
shares.
this is a share? Oh, okay.
Yes,
all right. I'm going to go with another pitcher here because you can just never have enough pitchers, and it's going to be the Cincinnati Reds, Tyler Mahle. It says slight reach. Once again, I got the face. 77% chance, but I don't necessarily think that that's accurate only because we've got a real sharp in the room here in Alex Fast, and Tyler Mahle's been pretty good recently. I think he's ready to take that next leap. In fact, I would argue he actually did break out last year, and not enough people really noticed.
Yep. Yeah, I'm upset because Mahle was going to be the guy that I was going to pair this team with. I think he has so much nice upside, right? I mean, it's a little, if I want to hate on the pick since you took it, I can say that, he pitches in a park that's so home run friendly and he gives up so many home runs. But overall, I think that's such a nice upside pick. Originally, I was going to go ahead and go with Corey Kluber. I'm a little scared. His command has not looked great. He was a guy that I was really paying attention to this spring. I wasn't really concerned about the velo. I was more saying, okay, what's that command going to look like? And it hasn't looked fantastic. Marcus Stroman has looked fantastic.
Sure has.
He has just looked so good. So he has some nice upside for me, and I want to pair that. I'm going to continue with this high upside rotation. Now I'm looking at how I'm going to fill this second pick. I think I was going to go ahead and fill that middle infield spot, but I don't really love necessarily what's on the board. I've got 14 seconds left, so I'm going to go see what's available in this RPs real quick. I'm going to go ahead. This is a little unsexy, but I think at the end of the year, the closer or the guy who's going to lead the team in saves is going to be Alex Colomé. So it's not my favorite pick, but he is kind of the last of the tier where I think, maybe he might lose a few saves here and there to, what's his name, Rogers. But I think at the end of the day, they're going to use him more of a fireman role. Colomé is going to get a bulk of those saves. So there's my two picks.
And Dan is very upset because you took Marcus Stroman, which he
that
has.
Was the
all
this is, by the way,
shares.
Great lesson to everybody who is drafting. Know your league mates, because as soon as I passed, I said, "Wait, that's 5%," but that's not taking into account that Alex Fast tweets a GIF of Marcus Stroman every day, and he loves him as much as I do, and now I'm not going to get him, and then I felt stupid. So know your league mates, everybody. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to get a reach alert here, I'm sure, but I need some speed, and I'm going to take a shot on Andrew Benintendi here. Just trying to get the little 50. Yes, I know. I understand reach alert. Now give me this emoji, which is, why'd you do that, Joe? I don't think that's a great idea. You know what? It's once again, you have to look at your roster and the needs. And as Dan pointed out, one of the great things here about the Draft Wizard at Fantasy Pros, and you can go to fantasypros.com and, obviously play around with the wizard and figure things out here, is you get to see, where you're at with your team and your roster as you're building it. And right now, with that pick, I just went up to 5th now in stolen bases, which is good. That's where I needed to be. I needed a little lift there. It lifted me right past Alex Fast, and for no other reason. That I'm very happy about that. So, Dan Harris, you are on next. Where are you going with your picks?
I am actually going to take Nick Anderson here, and I realize he's not. He will throw in saves. He's not going to be the just the pure closer, of course, because it's the Rays. But, man, his numbers at this point, again, this was part of it where I looked, and the starting pitchers that were available were just not calling out to me whatsoever. So it's something where, even though I don't take a starter, I'm going to boost my pitching numbers with Anderson, who, again, the regular season was just nuts last year. He fell apart in the playoffs because he got a little tired, but I think he's reworked everything in the offseason. So I really like nabbing him there as like sort of a quasi-relief and starting pitcher. I don't love anybody right now who I'm staring at on the board in my rankings. So, I could use an outfielder at this point. I could probably use another starter. I have 4, but I'm not going to go that route. I'm going to take a guy who I feel pretty comfortable with this year. It's Clint Frazier. And again, I think he'll get the majority of the time in left field regardless, and there will be injuries between Hicks and Judge and Stanton. There'll be enough at bat. So he's just quality when he's in the lineup. So I'm going to fill my 4th outfield spot with that pick.
There you go. Once again, I'm continuing to look at these closers, and I struggle. I'm struggling, but you know what? I'm gonna try here. I think Richard Rodriguez has got no competition for the job. They might only win 60 games, but I'm sure half of them are going to be at least by a run. So therefore, there's going to be plenty of opportunities there. Are
you worried at all about Crick, by the way? Because I feel like Crick's having the
what? I've been
spring.
watching Kyle Crick since he was in San Francisco,
That is
and you know what? I think he's a good pitcher. He with ability, but a very wise man once said to me, if relief pitchers were any good, they'd be starting pitchers. And I think that is one to grow on. And that's something I always keep in the back of my mind now, and I can't unthink it. I think Rodriguez is the way to go there. So I'm also trying to help out the saves, help out the whip and ERA a little bit. So you just took Kyle Schwarber, Alex. Some cheap power, which I love. I've done this a few times myself, and Dan's a big fan too. Just why not, right? 30 bombs, just put it in the bank.
Yeah, totally. I got my very first, I believe, value pick here, which is really exciting. And I mean, obviously the average isn't necessarily going to be great, but I think people forget that stadium is actually a very home run friendly stadium. This is a guy who is now going to get every day at bats. He's not going to be platooned. Like 35, even like I don't think it's going to happen, but 40 home runs is not out of the question for him. It's going to come with strikeouts. It hurts the average a little bit, but one pick we didn't talk about that I made was Justin Turner to be able to leverage those two things out, right? Justin Turner can still be a 290 average kind of guy. I did not like when you said I fell behind in steals, so I picked up Gene Segura, who is still going to be able to get
pick.
me. It was a purely spite pick, where it's like you really mash on the button, right? Like, I'll show you. So I went with him there. I think he's going to be hitting fine in that order. He's going to have some steals. He says he's a little bit more focused on power this year, so I'm in.
This is really off-brand. I'm going to go double closer back-to-back. Amir Garrett.
Wow.
And I know if I don't, Dan Harris is going to do it. Yes, reach alert. I got it.
I don't like Amir Garrett. I never said that.
Yeah,
you
sure.
Never happened.
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah. Come on.
Do.
You're just breaking. Why are you breaking up with me today? We're like 2 months into this relationship. I thought everything's going great. We had all these plans. Now it's like, it's like old hat. Dan doesn't want to go to dinner anymore.
True.
You don't buy me flowers.
Wait till year 5.
Wait till year 5. I never will. All right. I need some pitching at this point because I've got 4 starters. We are pretty late. I've got the 2 relief pitchers. The suggestions is Andrew Heaney. He is not the top guy on my board. The top guy on my board is a guy I don't particularly love. I know Joe does, so I'm going to let Alex break the tie as I draft him, and his name is Aaron Savale. So go ahead, Alex. What do you think of Savale this year? Sorry, I may need to double-click the draft button. Just to make sure it's true. So, Alex, while I think about my next pick, what do you think about Savale this year?
That is now 3 times you have sniped me. I am very, very high in Aaron Savale. I actually, my hot take is that he outperforms Zach Plesac this year.
Oh, I 100% support that. And this is another one of my guys. And I love hearing these positive vibes out of Fast when he talks about him.
Yeah, I love him. I just think he's a guy who, like, the command is there, right? And that's what you want overall. The guy who's got great command. He has no problem getting to 2 strikes. His biggest problem was finishing with 2 strikes. He's got a great curveball that I think he's going to be able to up the usage of to get more Ks. He's got a new splitter that looks really, really good as well. So I just think he gives you such a really good floor. He gets you a bunch of innings, and I think the sky's the limit for him, so I'm all about it. At this late in the draft, chef's kiss. Perfect.
Okay. Now I feel fantastic. When
kiss.
Joe liked him, I couldn't have cared less, but now that Alex likes him, now I feel that I've won this entire draft. For my next pick, I am taking CJ Cron, who is just, he has just kind of moved up draft boards, of course, signing in Colorado, the minor league deal. He's going to be the first baseman. He's going to be the guy that we kind of all expected him to be last year, if not better. So I'm just going to fill my utility spot there with with a guy who's going to give me pretty solid production overall.
I can't believe you passed on your guy, so I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take the knife and I'm gonna stick it in because Austin Riley. You left Austin Riley out there, so I'm gonna do it.
There are two reasons I passed on Mrs. Riley and only Mrs. Riley. It is because number one, I have taken him in every mock draft, I want to just mix things up. Number two, I looked at the categories and I think it correctly noted that perhaps my average was not a strength of this team, and so I did not want to drain it necessarily further. Not like Crone is some huge average hitter, but certainly will be better than Riley. So again, that's something that you can do. You look at the categories. How do you look stacking up? My average was a little bit down, so that is the reason why I passed on Austin Riley.
All right, Alex, fast back to you for 2 picks, my friend.
Oh, man, I just went back and forth for a little while. I was very upset to see Jamison Tyone go. I was hoping he fell to me, and he didn't. I was going back and forth between James Paxton and John Means. I usually wouldn't take those risks on James Paxton, but he was sitting like 95, 96 in his first game. I'm probably, all that safe floor that I built with Scherzer and Lynn, it's kind of gone by the wayside with McCullers, Stroman, and Paxton, who all have injury concerns, and that's why I hate to see Aaron Savale go, because I think he was a guy who had a high enough floor. You know what? I think now, once again, I'm left with a decision where am I going to go for the injuries or am I going to go for the safer bet? I'm choosing between David Fletcher and Aaron Hicks. Oh, Lordy. I'm going to go ahead here and do Aaron Hicks. I love David Fletcher. I love that he's leading off. I love that he has all the multi-position eligibility in the world, but he is such a tank for home runs. He's really just pretty much giving you average. Hicks, I'm going to dive back in with all these injury concerns. If he's healthy, I just think he can be so good. And he's obviously, what is he going to do? He could hit second or third in that lineup, theoretically. I saw reports saying he could hit second. So yeah, I'm going to go take the risk there.
All right, I'm going to continue to load up on Royals here. Vertigo with Merrifield. Why not some Hunter Dozier, too? I like the position flexibility. I'll take him as my final outfielder here for this roster. Maybe a slight reach, but once again, you can't have enough position flexibility. There's always going to be injuries. Being able to move guys around, I think, is very important. I was actually really contemplating Gavin Lux there, too. Just worried about him getting dodgered. We had a great conversation last week with Eric Cross on the show about, buying back into Gavin Lux now. And I think he will get the majority of playing time, but once again, it's like majority versus all of. So Hunter Dozier is going to play every day, so I'm going to take that instead. Dan Harris, up to you now, round 19, pick 6. Where you going?
I've got like 45 pitchers right in the area of guys who I like to take at this moment. You know what? They're all. It's pretty much just a big giant. Everybody's in the same range, so I'm going to go ahead and go with a guy. Shout out to Fast with Means, who I like very much this year as, I don't know where we are, 6th starter maybe. So now I'm sitting here and I need an outfielder. I could use another closer who's actually going to get saves as opposed to my guy, but instead I'm gonna go with another starter, okay? Because I waited here for a while, and I'm gonna go with a guy who I think has it's not a high probability, but a possibility of being the best Marlins starter this year, and it's Eliezer Hernandez, who I am just buying into. I mean, again, 71% chance that Eliezer Hernandez would have made it back. They are not factoring in that Joe Pisapia is drafting me. So,
big factor.
He is a guy who I like at the back end of my rotation, pretty much. The Marlins, man, I'm in on all the Marlins starters this year. I'm just in on every single one of them. So he's my guy.
All right. I'm picking between 2 pitchers here. It's the morbid curiosity point in the draft where you're looking at some of these guys and you go, what if? Just what if? Look, Domingo Germán's had a very good spring, and I think I'm just going to go with the cheap wins with the Yankees, although I am really curious to see if they can get something else out of Jake Odorizzi we haven't seen in Houston. But I'm just going to stick with the safe one here, which I think ironically is a little safer in terms of what I know out of Germán and that team. So give me that instead. We'll see what Fast thinks about that. What do you think of Germán and Odorizzi too? Because I mean, we've seen it time and time again. Somebody goes to Houston, all of a sudden they do tick up quite a bit. Charlie Morton's one of those guys. Even Garrett Cole took his game to the next level. So is there something to what's going on in the spin rates and everything you're doing?
Yeah, definitely. I think Odorizzi had a completely off year last year. I think he, we talked about elevation earlier. Odorizzi was one of the best elevators in the game a couple years ago for the Twins, and I think the Astros are going to be able to pull that out of him one more time. I think he's just a guy who isn't necessarily the sexiest pick, but he
Right.
like if he can get ramped up, then yeah, I think he can be a really, really nice value later on in the drafts. I went ahead. I've obviously been loading up on guys who have some injury concerns or some innings pitched concerns. To combat that, I went with Ryan Yarbrough. I think he's actually a guy that a lot of people are sort of sleeping on. I think he gives you really, really nice floors. We don't necessarily have to worry about what we always worry about with him, which is how are the Rays going to, are they going to use an opener? Is he going to come in the second or third? Is he going to throw 3 innings? I think they're going to let him throw this year, and I think he's going to get a good amount of innings because they need someone to.
Yeah, look, Yarbrough's a guy I've taken quite a lot. And so you took Yarbrough at the top and then Mitch Haniger, another recent darling. And this is why it's important to, continue to mock throughout the year because now that we've gotten to spring, we've seen more Haniger, we've seen him more at the top of the order. He's becoming a very trendy sleeper pick, as it were, and maybe we're not sleeping anymore.
Yeah, there's a chance this team could play 10 games as a collective, or there's a chance that they could win the league.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? I waited 2 extra rounds, and Gavin Lux is still there, so now I am going to take him. How about that, Draft Wizard? How you like that? And you know what? I just got the 3 claps, not just 1, but 2, and then a third. 3 clap emojis. Experts rank Gavin Lux number 204 overall, and you got him later than that. Good job, Draft Wizard. Thank you very much for the positive reinforcement. I need it because I work with Dan, and he's got none of it for me today.
That is accurate.
It's very disheartening.
Ever. All right, so I'm looking here. I've got an outfield spot to fill. I'm looking at the categories. If you're on, again, youtube.com/FantasyPros MLB, you can see that I'm projected to finish very well in the offensive categories, except one, batting average. I'm going to do what I can to sort of address that with a guy who's not the number 1 suggested pick, but the second highest suggested pick, and that's Raimel Tapia, who should lead off for the Rockies, hit for a decent average overall, and help out. I don't love him, but he's going to be good enough. That's sort of when I talk myself.
That was, you know what, Alex? That was actually Dan's evaluation of me before coming to Fantasy Pros. It's good enough. I don't love him, but
wasn't quite that kind. But yeah, I'm with you. Okay, and to guard against, I could go with a pitcher here. There are some closers that I don't mind whatsoever. But I'm going to go with sort of this guy, I'll get the reach alert here, but I am going to go with Lorenzo King, who basically is another guy who should hit for decent average, assuming that he's healthy, and he looks healthy now. I know, 89% chance he would have made it back to me, but he should throw in some speed. So between him and Tapia, I feel like one of those guys should be able to get by as my 5th outfielder in this league.
All right, I got to take a guy who's just having a torrid spring, and you know what? I want to back up that pick that I just made with Gavin Lux just in case. So I'm going to take a little Ty France action. And look, now we're into the bench spot, so now it's time to take some shots. Yes, I got the reach alert. I am aware of this emoji, and I've seen it more than I'd like to tell. But I feel like you take shots on guys with good bats who are finally in an opportunity to get everyday ABs. And who knows, maybe Mitch Haniger will even open up a slot for him on Alex's team. It'll be a win all across the board when Mitch Haniger gets hurt again. Hopefully he won't, because I love Mitch Haniger.
There are no reaches, by the way, there are no reaches in round 20.
No, at this point.
There are none.
Exactly.
You take your guys at this point, right?
All right, Jorge Alfaro just went after Hector Neris, and now Alex Fast is on the clock for 2 more picks in round 22 and starting 23.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead. I think he's still available because it took a second to load there. I think he's still available, and if he is, I'm going to go ahead and take him. He's a guy that I think no one's really paying attention to because he had a pretty bad year, and he's not necessarily on a good team, but in terms of roster construction, I think this is going to be a good pick for me if it lets me do it. And it will. And that's Mike Minor. Mike Minor is showing an uptick in velocity in spring training, returning to where he should be. So that makes me a little bit not as concerned with drafting him. Once again, he's not necessarily like the sexiest pick for sure, but with the team that I have, I want some innings. He's going to get me those innings. And then now that I'm into my bench, that was my last. Here's the thing, too. This is how deep pitching is. Like, you're going to be able to get some of these guys later on and build the team that is best for you. Now, I'm trying to load my RPs right here. If I can get this guy, it's giving me a little bit of an error here, and this is on my end. But if I can get Jordan Romano, he's the guy that I'm going to be aiming to get. Now, Kirby Yates obviously out for the season. Jordan Romano probably going to get a bulk of those saves. If not, it could be Rafael Dolis. Good. It looks like I'm going to be able to get him.
Oh, good. Oh, bully.
Oh, good. Bully for you.
Not like I was looking at him here being like, nobody will be thinking about Jordan Romano.
Well, you know what? And this is the difference between last week and this week, right? I mean, that wasn't the guy that was even drafted, and now obviously these things are changing, and this is why, look, if you're playing in serious cash leagues of any kind, it's very important that you wait as long as you can to get the best information. It's, it's nice to draft early and be kind of, hey, I'm sharper, I'm ahead of the curve on this guy and that guy, but you don't want to be ahead of the curve so much, and it's such a war of attrition. It sucks to just lose players before the season even kicks off. I'm going to go with another trendy pick here, another guy with dual position eligibility. It's Willie Castro with the Tigers. A little bit of stolen bases, a little bit of pop. Terrible team, as Alex mentioned earlier. Sometimes players on bad teams just kind of get forgotten. Also talked quite a bit about him recently. I think Chris Meany, when we had him on the show a couple weeks ago, we were talking about Willie Castro. So I think a decent value there, which puts Dan Harris on the board.
Yeah, I am going to take Nick Senzel, who is getting a lot of buzz in the spring. He is not where he needs to be in my rankings, which, by the way, this is a great process for me, as I've having a little cheat sheet that I created, a couple of days ago based on my rankings. And, Senzel wasn't here, but I want to take him here, which means I have to move him up my rankings. So I'm going to be doing that right after this. I'm looking now at pitchers. Man, there aren't that many pitchers left here in this draft. That's a little unfortunate for me. So I'm fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. Everything's fine. How are you?
Everything's fine. And again, I don't know. I'm all right. So I am gonna take though a guy who oh boy, I'm gonna get a reach alert here. But again, we're in round 24, so I don't really care. It's Mitch Keller, who's a guy who I always like. He's one of the guys who basically I say it every time. Don't give me great luck. Don't give me terrible luck. Give me normal luck and let me see what Mitch Keller can do. So hopefully we get that this year. As a guy who's on my bench, I'll take that.
They keep saying this next guy's not going to start in the rotation, but they keep working him out like he's a starter. So I'm just going to take the good arm, and maybe there's a bump in Freddie Peralta this year.
No.
Sorry. Love it. And that makes it even better. It says slight reach, but Alex Fast's reaction is so much more important to me than this emoji, which is actually ironically the same emoji I'm getting, which is but you know what? This is again, when you're at your bench, this is where you take the bonus guys, and if it doesn't work out, you cut them, you move on. But if it does, what a huge lift that is. So why are you oohing and eyeing and so disappointed? Tell everybody, Alex.
Yeah, it stinks. It sucks butts. Like at this point in the draft, you want those SPRPs, right? Especially in a league like this. Put him in there. You don't necessarily need to worry about him. And we're so late in the draft that if Freddie Peralta ends up being the Freddie Peralta that we all thought he would be, you're great. And if he is the Freddie Peralta that he's been, which has not been great, then you just cut bait. We're near pick 300. It doesn't matter. I think, obviously they're starting him on Friday and like doing this weird combination with Lindblom. I'm curious to see how that works out. I still think
who has also worked out of the bullpen in his career too. Let's not forget.
So I'm hoping that he gets a full share of starts because I think there's a lot of promise there. But yeah, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that didn't hurt because it did. And now I need to figure out what the heck I'm going to do.
Pivot.
Pivot.
You need a pivot now.
I got to pivot. So I went and took Yuli Gurriel once again, just going to take that nice positional eligibility, and he is still hitting in that park, which is still super friendly for home runs. So I've got no problem taking him there. And then why not? Of the three TJS guys, he's going to be the one that is likely back first, and that is Noah Syndergaard. There is going to be so much incredible value on the waiver wire, especially in a 12-team league. And the way that I think about these TJS guys is, am I going to be able to get someone off the waiver wire who's going to replace Thor at his ceiling? Probably not. You know what I mean? So I'll stash Thor, take who I can get off the waivers later on.
I'm glad you addressed that too, because I got a lot of questions about what do you do with these guys? Do you draft them at all? And I think how you put it is perfect. Like, who's the guy who's back first? Is it a good scenario with the Mets? Let's give it a whirl and see what works out. And also, let's not forget too, as they're working their way back, these guys end up having trade value. So you might get some decent offers. There's nothing better than having a player on your roster who is about to come back from an injury. It is amazing how valuable all of a sudden they become to the rest of the league. So you're taking them as an asset, not necessarily for your team, but just as an asset, period. I'm going to take Madison Bumgarner, having a good spring. I'm hoping he can find a new version of himself. So far, so good. But once again, it's not like he's going to get bounced from that rotation. So, and pick, what's it? I don't know, 5,722 that we're at here. It's fine. In the 25th round, I'll take a shot. Like Alex said, if it doesn't work, cut bait. If it does, that becomes a very durable, reliable starting pitcher potentially.
All right. I need some saves. because Nick Anderson is my second reliever. I sorted, as you're watching again on youtube.com/FantasyProsMLB. You can see that you can sort by top players in projected saves. That is Anthony Bass, who I think, Joe, you are in agreement with that. You expect him to be the Marlins closer, even though he has not technically been named as such. So now I'm looking around. We've got my best buddy, Willie Calhoun, but obviously he's a little behind schedule. So, this guy probably would last. But I was hoping for Emilio Pagan, by the way, as there's, some rumblings that he may get. I'm going to take the guy who should probably lead off in Milwaukee and probably throw on 10 homers with 25 steals, and that's Colton Wong, who nobody really talks about because he doesn't have that much upside.
That's a good value there.
Yeah.
I think that's a great value
Milwaukee,
there.
right? In Milwaukee, and especially, I've got some position flexibility, so I like to add him in. Just, I don't think everything has to be sexy, even at this late in the draft. I think you can just go ahead and.
That's also, by the way, what Dan said when hiring me too. Everything has to be sexy.
I'll just close my eyes.
Yeah.
When it comes to
that made the show right there. That's the winning.
When it comes to Wong, I think the other thing too is his defense is going to make sure he's in the lineup every day.
Oh yeah,
right. Of course.
You know what I mean? So that's great.
No, I think that's a phenomenal value there in the 26th round. I'm going to go with another Joe Pisapia favorite, Alex Dickerson. Just some outfield depth here. He's just quietly been pretty steady here for the Giants, and I don't think anybody noticed last year because who was really paying attention to the Giants besides maybe Justin Mason. So outside of that, I think we take that pick and move on, and now we are up to Alex Fast for his 2 picks coming up.
Yeah, for me, the first one I'm going to take is Brian Reynolds, another guy who falls because he's on a poor team but is going to be playing every single day. And if I can get 500 at-bats at pick 300, I think that's really nice, right? Because this is going to be my 6th outfielder or whatever. He's going to rest on my bench, and he still has enough upside, and he's not really going to hurt me in any of the majority of the categories. So I don't really have a problem taking him there. For my last pick, it's probably going to be a pitcher. That's the one thing that makes drafting Noah Syndergaard kind of stink, right? I mean, I need another pitcher there because I'm theoretically down one. I've got 2 bench bats, which is nice. If I didn't take Thor there, I probably would have gone for another offensive performer. I'm making a decision between Kikuchi and Matthew Boyd. Matthew Boyd, obviously,
Sure.
We saw what the floor was, right? And it was absolutely terrible. I don't think he's that pitcher. He was injured last year. He revamped his mechanics a little bit. I think it's going to get him a new tick and velocity, have him sit 92, 93. Also, Kikuchi is another guy that I like. It looks like Boyd was taken, so I'm going to go ahead and take Kikuchi. He's going to get plenty of innings, even with the 6-man rotation. I believe in the changes that he made. He's also another guy who's showing some nice velocity. So yeah, that's going to wrap up my team. It looks like Kikuchi, the final pick.
And also, Jan Gomes just went as well here, I believe. So there you have it. So my catcher that I was eyeing, I'm going to take my boy Alejandro Kirk. And I'm sick and tired of Danny Jansen missing baseballs. I'm over it. I think Kirk just keeps hitting and is going to find a way to somehow get at bats. And I don't care if it's a catcher or DH or somewhere. I'll take my chances there. That'll be my catcher. So be it. I shall live with that. Which brings us to Dan Harris. Dan, do you have a catcher?
I did not, as you know. This is how we roll. So I just took Tom Murphy because it was anonymous catcher who's still there at the last round. That's what I really don't care. So that's it. Did you guys get a draft grade?
I did. I got my grade. It's a B-. It's an A- from Alex Fast though, so that's all that really matters. No, but it's 82 out of 100. That is the grade, and as we click in there, you can see the projections and view the draft analysis, which is great on the back end. Dan, what was your grade? Do you have a grade out there?
A-, my friend.
Oh,
A-, 92 out of 100. So that's good. I think. Oh my goodness, Alex. Just
Alex
to ask
first.
Do you have a draft grade right now? Can you see yours?
I don't have my draft is complete. I'm going to click on View Draft Analysis, and it should load for me.
Why don't you go ahead and click on that one?
Yeah, click on that because you're at the top of the board.
You're number
everywhere.
1, Alex Fast.
Am I really?
What? At number 1, best team in the league.
You have the top, best team ever.
You have the top hitting in the entire league. Your pitching is only 5th, so bad job by you.
You call yourself pitcherless my rear. No way, man. Pitcherless.
You are projected to finish 1st with 91 points. I am right behind you in 2nd with 83 points. Joe, again, they create a new category for Joe, which is find a new league because you can't compete in this. He is 8th. With 70 points. Alex Fast absolutely crushing it, man. Way to be.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Can you access your roster, Alex, so you can tell everybody?
I can a little bit. I think so.
Well, if you click on team rosters there, you're able to pull them up there.
Click on team. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, if I'm looking overall, I'm fine being 5th in pitching because obviously Thor is going to knock me down a little bit. I think I'm a little bit higher on Lance McCullers than overall, and that's where I want to be. My if I'm good at anything, I'm not. But if I were to be,
if I were good at anything, this is what I'd be good at.
If I were not a waste of a human, it would be streaming. It would be streaming pitchers, right? That's something that I'm going to be paying attention to all the time, solely because of working at Pitcher List, right? So I'm okay going into it 5th overall. Yeah, man. If I could keep this team, I took some risks. I don't think this is my first time I've ever owned Loris Gurriel Jr. or had him on a team. I'm excited. I think it's fun. Let's do it.
All right. So here's Alex Fast's team. He had Contreras at catcher, Alonso at first, Ketel Marte at second, Bo Bichette at short, Matt Chapman at third, Justin Turner in the corner spot, the middle spot, Gurriel Jr. Outfielders are Ronald Acuna Jr. You got a lot of juniors. I just want to put there. A lot of Lances and a lot of juniors.
Yeah, Lance Jr. is my team.
Lances, and you have Lance McCullers Jr., where the whole worlds collide, which is just amazing. Ronald Acuna Jr., Anthony Santander Jr., Kyle Schwarber Jr., Aaron Hicks Jr., and then Mitch Haniger. Utility spot is Gene Segura. The pitchers are Max Scherzer, Lance Lynn, Edwin Diaz, Lance McCullers Jr., Marcus Stroman, James Paxton, Alex Colomé, Ryan Yarborough, Mike Minor. The bench is Gurriel, Reynolds, Syndergaard, Romano, and Jan Gomes. Very nice.
Yeah, you got Jan Gomes as your auto pick, by the way, for your last pick.
Which was going to be my catcher, but whatever. Dan Harris, how about yours? You want to run through your roster for everybody?
Yeah, I don't hate this team, which is about as nice a thing as I ever say about one of my own teams. I'm never like, oh my God, I crushed it. I'm always like, it's fine. Tom Murphy, of course, as my catcher, best catcher ever. Luke Voigt, Ozzy Albies, Tommy Edman at short, Eugenio Suarez at third, Rhys Hoskins and Ian Happ as my corner and middle. Bryce Harper, Luis Robert, Austin Meadows, Clint Frazier, and Lorenzo Cain as my outfield. Right now, my utility is Nick Senzel, but I actually drafted C.J. Cron for that spot. My starting pitchers are Jacob deGrom, Max Fried, Zach Wheeler, Joe Musgrove, Ryan Presley, Nick Anderson, Aaron Savale, John Means, and Eliezer Hernandez. And my bench is Raimel Tapia, Colton Wong, Anthony Bass, and Mitch Keller. I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's pretty well balanced and no real weaknesses glaring. How about you, Joe?
Apparently, I'm very weak. The Wizard doesn't like me, but we'll put it out there. These are two very good rosters here from Alex and Dan, so we'll throw this out. Here's the Joey P roster. Kirk at catcher. I was going to take Young Gomes before Alex Fast had two catchers
baby.
on. I know, two catcher league. What do you? It's a one catcher league. You're taking two catchers. What the hell's going on here? Paul Goldschmidt at first, Whit Merrifield at second, Didi at short, Moustakas at third, Austin Riley in the corner, Gavin Lux, then Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Tommy Pham, Benintendi, Dozier, Nelson Cruz. Pitching, Giolito, Strasburg, Iglesias, Morton, Montas, Molly. I like the M's. Morton, Montas, and Molly. I'm going for a whole thing there. Rodriguez, Garrett, Peralta, then Willie Castro, Dickerson, Ty France, Domingo Herman, and Madison Bumgarner. That's the bench there. So I would go to war with this squad. I mean, I understand why the projections don't love this team because I've got Aaron Judge, I've got Steven Strasburg. There's a lot of risk in those kind of players. So obviously, when dealing with those type of guys, there's always going to be projections that are off. But sometimes guys do beat projections. I mean, the projection guys will tell you that year in, year out. But overall, I think a very good exercise for everybody. Alex Fast, you feel more prepared now than you did before the show started?
I will say this: I am someone who lives in fear all the time, and it was nice to know that that I could theoretically draft an okay team in this format. So that was good. It was definitely a lot of fun. That was a lot that was
There you go. That's what we're here for, just for the fun. Dan Harris, sure. Any parting thoughts or knowledge for the audience here?
I'm really sad that this is our last mock draft that we'll be doing for this. But I will say again that if you haven't drafted yet, doing it even if you don't want to practice your strategy, it helps sort of quantify how you feel about certain players. Like I realize I need to move Nick Senzel a little bit up because it's where I'm taking him. So I love it as an exercise just to basically feel better about your prep in general.
And I can tell you right now, just from doing this mock, even just from the last one we did last week, some big changes already. You're seeing a lot of trends going. You're seeing the Mitch Haniger rise, the Trevor Rosenthal rise, all those kind of things that we've seen here in the last few weeks. And it's something to really take note of for everybody else out there as you're trying to make your strategies, because we all know you've got lots of drafts coming up. And if you need more help, we are here for you. Go to FantasyPros.com. You could use the draft wizard there. You can invite some friends and do exactly what we did. You could stream it and do whatever you like and use that multi-user draft software that we have and have some fun on your own. You crack a couple beers, you do a draft. It's a good time. Meanwhile, I want to remind everybody you could follow us over on obviously all the social media platforms of Fantasy Pros, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel for baseball of Fantasy Pros. That's Fantasy Pros MLB channel, okay? That's where Dan Harris and I, even though he doesn't want to, will have to spend every single day with me talking baseball on the Leading Off show, which is going to be a great show, great fun. We've also got tomorrow on Thursday coming up from 12 to 8. It's a fantastic opportunity to ask some of the questions here. We've got our chat marathon at fantasypros.com/marathon. Again, fantasypros.com/marathon. We'll be tweeting about it too. You can always check out the link there. But from 12 to 8, there's plenty of time to get all your questions. And reminder, there's also plenty of time to get that Juan Soto jersey. Go to fantasypros.com/MLB contest and enter to win that today, thanks to our friends at pristineauction.com. And want to thank our sponsor of today's show, RT Sports, as well. Go to rtsports.com/fantasypros and get involved in a best ball league today. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Alex Fast and Dan Harris, I'm Joe Pisapia. We'll see you next time, kids.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out our featured videos. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Fantasy Pros, so you can get the latest news and updates to give you the edge you need in your fantasy league.